up to Daf Chaf Dawud Amud Beis. Once again, we have a couple lines left on Chaf Dawud Amud Aleph. 4 lines up, Ukvar. The Gemara says, 4 lines up in the middle of the line, Ukvar Hay Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Akiva. Mahalchim B'derech, we have these 4 Tanaim are walking on the road. Vishamu Kol Hamonish Sharomi. And they heard the voices of Rome. They heard the Roman, whatever it was, they heard the loud raging of Rome. Miplatya, from their palace, Berachak Meva Esemil, 120 mil away, which is pretty far. V'schilu boch, and they all started crying. They were crying, remembering the Beis HaMikdash. Rome destroyed the Beis HaMikdash, and seeing the successfulness of Rome. Rabbi Akiva Mesachik, and Rabbi Akiva was laughing. Amrlo, they said to him, B'nei Mata Mesachik, they turned to Rabbi Akiva and said, what are you laughing about? Amrlo, he said to them, Va'atem, and you, B'nei Mata Bochim, why are you crying? Amrlo, they said to him, Halalu Kushim, these different gersos here, but it means these non-Jews, the Romans, Shemishtachavim Latzavim, they bow down to their idols, Umekatrin Lavoris Kachavim, and they bring up incense to their idol worship. Yoshvin Betach, they're sitting in safety, Vahashket, and calmly. Va'anu, and us, Beis Hadom Raglenu, the footstool of Elokeinu, the footstool of our God. Sarof is burnt, Be'esh is burnt in fire. V'lo Nifkam, we shouldn't cry. They're saying, look what's going on over here. The Romans, they're running this world. They have full success in this world. They're doing Avodah Zarah. They were a pagan society at the time. Look at what they're doing. And look how successful they are. And us, where we have the footstool of God's domain, which was the Beis HaMikdash, is destroyed in fire, and we're lost. Amr Lehem, Rabbi Akiva said to them, Lekach ani mitzachik, that's exactly why I'm laughing. Umala ovre ritzono kach, if you see people that transgress the will of God, you see how successful they are, and how safe they feel, and how good they are. La'ose ritzono, to those that do the will of God, al achas kama v'kama, all the more so. Obviously, we're going to get so much more reward for this in the next world when the Beis HaMikdash gets rebuilt. If you see such a reward for, not a reward, but you see such complacency for people doing against the will of God, of course, the people who do the will of God will get that at least, plus much more. Shov Pamachas, another time, Haya Olim Yerushalayim, they were on the way to Yerushalayim, these Tanaim. Keren Shegiu Laharat Sofim, once they got to Harat Sofim, which is basically Mount Scopus, what we call nowadays, Karu Bigdeim, they ripped their clothes, which is the appropriate thing to do when you see the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, when you see the Chorban Abayis. The halacha is, when you get to Har Sofim, you have to rip your clothes. Came when Shegiu Lahar Bayis, once they got to Har Bayis, Ro Shual, they saw a fox. Shiyatza mi Beis Kacheh Kadashim, they saw a fox walking out of where the Holy of Holies used to be. So this is, all these Tanaim lived through the times of the Beis HaMikdash, and they saw the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, and they're coming back to the same place, and they see a fox walking out over there. Hischilu heim bochim, they all started crying. Rabbi Akiva Metzachik, and Rabbi Akiva was laughing. Once again, Amrlo, they said to him, Mata Metzachik, they said, what are you laughing about? Amrlem, he said to them, Mata bochim, why are you crying? Amrlo, they said to him, Makom, a place, Shekasiba, where it says, quote, Vazar hakarev, you must, end quote. The pasuk says, a inappropriate person who comes close will be killed. Somebody who's not a Kohen, especially not a Kohen Gadol, especially not a Kohen, who goes into the wrong place in the Beis HaMikdash, he gets killed. V'achshav, and now shualim hilchubo, and now there are foxes walking around over here. V'lo nivcham, we shouldn't cry. He said, look at the contrast over here of when the Beis HaMikdash was around. It was such a holy place that every level you had to know your level. You're not allowed to overstep your border. If you weren't Kaddish enough, you weren't holy enough, you're not allowed to go there. The Kodesh HaKadoshim was a place where only the Kohen Gadol was allowed to go on Yom Kippur. Only the Kohen Gadol, nobody else. And now it's destroyed, and a fox is walking around over there. That's not worth crying about. Amar Lehen, Rabbi Akiva said to them, Lekach ani misachik, that's exactly why I'm laughing. Dechsiv, as the pasuk says, quote, Va'ida li edim namanim. Pasuk says, God said, I will testify trustworthy witnesses. Es Uriah HaKohen v'Zechariah ben Yivarcheu, end quote. So it groups together the prophecies of Uriah and Zechariah. Now, Rabbi Akiva asked, what does Uriah have to do with Zechariah? Uriah b'mikdash rishon. Uriah said a prophecy in the first Beis Hamikdash. The Zechariah b'mikdash sheni, and Zechariah lived in the second Beis Hamikdash. So what's the connection of these two Nevi'im? Rabbi Kiva continued, and he said, Ella, rather, Tala hakasa nevuasa shel Zechariah b'nevuasa shel Uriah. The Torah is being tola, it's hanging, depending, the nevuah of Zechariah is dependent on the nevuah of Uriah. It's connecting the two nevuahs, even though there was a difference of many hundreds of years in between. But Hashem is saying, I'm putting these two nevuahs together. But Uriah, except by Uriah, it says, quote, L'chein b'galauchem, because of you, Tzion sada techrash. Tzion, which is referring to Zion, sada techrash, will be plowed like a field. The Beis Hamikdash will be destroyed and it will be leveled. That was prophesizing on the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. Zechariah ksiv, by Zechariah it says, quote, Od yeshu zekenim uzekevos zekenas b'Rechoves Yerushalayim. One day the elders will come back and sit in the streets of Yerushalayim. Klal Yisrael will come back. There'll be a rebirth. Klal Yisrael will come back to Eretz Yisrael from all over in Gullus, and they'll finally come back to Eretz Yisrael with the Beis Hamikdash. So that was the prophecy of Zechariah, and the prophecy of Uriah was the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. And Rabbi Kiva continued, and he said, Ad shelo niskayma. Ad means until shelo niskayma nevuasa shel Uriah. Until the prophecy of Uriah was not upheld yet, until I never saw it happen, Hayisi misyari, I was scared. Shelo tiskayim nevuasa shel Zechariah. I was worried maybe the prophecy of the third Beis Hamikdash might not happen. But Achshav, once I see sheniskayim nevuasa shel Uriah, once I see the nevuah of Uriah was upheld, that happened already. Biyadua, you know, shenevuasa shel Zechariah miskayamis. That just tells me if that prophecy came into effect, the prophecy of Zechariah will also come into effect. The prophecy of Od Yeshu Zekenim Zekenos B'Yerushalayim. And Rabbi Kiva said, that's why I'm laughing. But Lashon Hazeh Amrulo, in this language, they said back to him, they said to Rabbi Kiva, Akiva nichamtanu, Akiva, you have comforted us. Akiva nichamtanu, you have comforted us. A double language, the Maharsha says, because every time we talk about compassion, we talk about nechama, we talk about comfort, we do it in a double language. Like nachamu, nachamu ami, where it says in a double language, a double comforting. We got hit once, but the comforting comes in double the amount will be comforted. So what we have over here is, we started with the story of these four Tanaim, who they heard the voice of Rome, they heard the successfulness of Rome. Rabbi Kiva was laughing, basically they were crying. Rabbi Kiva said, if you see this, what happens to people who anger God, for sure the people who don't anger God, how much more reward they'll have. And then we have when they were walking by the Kodesh HaKadoshim, they saw the fox coming out, they all started crying, and they said, look at the what used to be here, and look what there is now, a fox walking around over here, where even a Kohen couldn't go, only a Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur. To which Rabbi Kiva said back to him, he said, but realize that seeing the destruction is already the beginning of seeing the rebuilding. The rebuilding can only happen once the destruction happened. Once the destruction happened, we know, and based on these two prophecies, we know if the nevuah of Uriah happened, obviously nevuah of Zechariah will come, and that's something that we look forward to. And they said back to him, Achkiva nichamtani, you have comforted us. Hadran lach elein lokim b'slikala mesechta Makkos. Hadran lach elein lokim b'slikala mesechta Makkos. Hadran lach elein lokim b'slikala mesechta Makkos. We should be zoche to finish many more mesechtas together.